Welcome to the final day of Seafood eConnect 2021, organized by Mars International. I acknowledge the support endorsed by Marine Stewardship Council, MSC. I am Rosalind Sandra, Event Promotion Officer at Mars International. It's day 3 of Seafood eConnect 2021. We have 2 sessions. Session 5 on transition in global fish segments to new consumer demands, and Session 6 on traceability for improved seafood safety. Now, we have Session 5 on transition in global fish segments to new consumer demands, presented by 3 speakers. I invite Sherlyn Maria Anthony Sami, Director of Infofish Malaysia, to give a session talk on digital transformation of seafood markets in the Asia-Pacific region. Ms. Sherlyn, over to you.
Thank you, Rosalind. Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be here at the Seafood Connect event. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers, Mars International, for inviting Infofish to present our experience and also as a media partner for this event. My name is Sherlyn Anthony Sami, and I'm the director of Infofish. I've been with Infofish for the past 22 years, almost 22 years. And Infofish is an intergovernmental organization for marketing information and technical advisory services for the Asia-Pacific region. So let me share my screen to begin my talk. I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So my presentation today will be about the digital transformation in the Asia-Pacific region. No doubt we have been undergoing a period of uncertainty since early last year. But my presentation today will be focusing a little bit more on what are the developments that have taken place, particularly in the area of information technology and how the industry has survived. But before I begin, let me just quickly give you an introduction about Infofish. As I mentioned just now, we're an intergovernmental organization set up by FAO in 1981. We started as a project to facilitate or support countries in the Asia-Pacific region. We are based in Malaysia, hosted by the government of Malaysia and under the Ministry of Agriculture. We have 12 member countries as of today, and over the past 40 years, as of this year, we are 40 years, we've been providing technical and marketing support for Infofish member countries and beyond via training programs, workshops, and seminars, as well as organization of trade commodity conferences, such as the World Tuna Conference, Shrimp and Tilapia. In addition to providing or executing international projects funded by international bodies in the areas of marketing, processing, aquaculture, and fisheries. What you're seeing right now are some of the regular publications produced by Infofish. Perhaps many of you may be familiar with the Infofish International magazine that comes out every 2 weeks, every 2 months, and the Infofish Trade News and various other publications. So before we move on, or rather to set the tone for the discussion, I'd just like to give you a quick overview about the global seafood trade itself. In spite of these challenging times over the past 14 to 15 months, we've seen some positive outlook in terms of global seafood trade. What you see on the right of the screen is a projection done by FAO. And what you can notice is there's some positive outlook in terms of production of fisheries. And what they predict is, or rather forecast, is a 2% increase in terms of capture fisheries, while increase from aquaculture is 1.1%. So we're likely to be seeing more growth in terms of capture fisheries in 2021, and a bit lesser compared to aquaculture. Now, in spite of these very challenging periods, what has happened is many producers and retailers were forced to adapt to the situation, and we'll be looking at those developments in the next couple of slides. But having said that, new opportunities have emerged also during this period in spite of the challenges of the COVID-19. And in addition to that, we also see stricter sanitary requirements and inspection protocols simply because of the exposure or the issues related to COVID-19. However, with the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines across the globe, consumer confidence is expected to increase, and this is in turn expected to facilitate trade to a better extent. The pandemic has actually significantly changed the way the global fishery trade is, in terms of the flow of trade, in terms of consumer preference, in terms of the way we select our food, in terms of the way we choose the type of food that we intake, particularly in this region. The main reason in terms of how this change in terms of global fishery trade happened is simply because of the disruption in the seafood supply chain, which forced this new adaptation process. Businesses were forced to look for alternative ways how they have to, or how they wanted to reach consumers in order to make sure their supplies or their products moved. So this is where ICT played a very important role in moving products to the consumers and providing better options, or instead of, because of the lockdowns, consumers were able to get access to their products through the use of online platforms offered by businesses. And in this process, the choice of seafood formats were also varying in terms of fresh, frozen, canned. And this is where we also see the shift in consumer preference for products. Being in Asia, being Asians, we generally love whole fish, we generally love fresh fish. But what has happened over the pandemic is this has forced consumers in Asia to even accept and buy frozen fishery products, go for more canned fishery products which have longer shelf life. In addition to that, consumers were also looking for ready-to-eat kind of products, ready-to-cook kind of products, which were more convenient simply because most of us were working from home, and this is to facilitate our daily lives. You also see increase in wholesalers processors who were selling directly to consumers, and this is where GrabFood platforms, delivery platforms like GrabFood, Shopee, Lazada, and many others now have become sort of household names. You also saw, to a certain extent, exports of processed, ready-to-serve and canned seafood products being highly demanded at the retail level. Just to give you a quick look at the types of delivery options that are available in the region. I'm sure some of it might be familiar to many of us in our different countries. In Malaysia, where we are based, we have Foodpanda, we have Happy Fresh, we have GrabFood, and also this other delivery option, which is called Damakan, where not only you have options to purchase your groceries, but you also have ready-to-eat food being delivered to your doorstep. In addition to that, you also have institutional retailers who opted to have online options, where supermarkets were setting up the online platforms so that consumers are able to select their products online or purchase online and have them delivered. Some of these supermarkets also had the options of a personal shopper, who does the shopping for the consumer and have those groceries, including seafood products, delivered to them. As mentioned just now, producers, processors, and wholesalers were also, or rather moved to online options and in order to get their products moving. And this includes high value seafood products that are, which even consumers were having high demand for. In addition to that, the various formats available in terms of whole fillet fish, cubes, steaks, and cuts, various cuts were also available for consumers to choose the various options from. Social media plays and continues to play a very important role in this process. In addition to the delivery options you have, many small businesses were using social media such as WhatsApp, Facebook to market their products. And it's very interesting on how important the social media has become for traders, particularly small scale businesses, where you see them posting pictures, product pictures of the various seafood products that are available for consumers to choose from, and at very, very affordable prices. And you also have the option for fresh products. You also have live products, even those which are caught off the boat. You have videos being posted by these businesses and offering consumers to purchase them at special prices at certain locations if they come and get it at that particular time. So it's very interesting how people have become innovative in terms of trying to market their products. I'd just like to show a quick video here, an example of how traders in small markets and even at their own shops, retail shops, are selling their seafood products for consumers, which are being posted through their WhatsApp as well as Facebook, just to give you a typical idea of how it sounds like. So what you see right now, it's basically a Chinese trader, but the option given here for the consumer is she presents a couple of different products at a certain price, and the consumer, all the consumer has to do is to send a message on that particular app that they're using, saying that, okay, I want to buy this product at this particular price, and it's only available for a certain period of time. And this is how the business gets going. So these are some of the developments. Interesting how businesses or traders are pushing their products during this period of time. And this is very popular because simply because the prices are really attractive. And besides frozen products, you also have live and fresh fishery products, which are marketed through this option. This visual, basically just to give you a quick look of how delivery apps are growing globally. And this is something that is, I believe, is going to be here to stay for the time being, simply because we are not sure of how things are going to turn out. We are still unsure how long before we are going to go back to normal. I would say we can say 1 year, we can say 2 years, but we're still not sure. But what's pretty obvious is the fact that we are still going to be depending, consumers are going to be depending quite a bit in terms of using delivery apps or online purchases, simply because it's been 1.5 years, we're coming to 2 years that we are started to adapt to this situation. And many of us are still working from home, and many many offices or companies are still adopting or practicing working from home. simply because it provides the convenience. And many consumers have been used to working from home and having the convenience or comfort to get the meals or groceries delivered to their doorstep. So this is an interesting thing that we should also be looking at in terms of how far or how quick are we going to adapt or rather move away from what we have already used to. Some of the other developments that have been taking place in the region is airlines. This is an area where, or rather, the airlines have been quite significantly affected during this period. And they have also been adopting or adapting to the situation, particularly within the region. You have Thai Airways, you have Singapore Airlines, you have Taiwan Airways, and also Air Asia that have adopted to various approaches in order to survive, number one. And they have been providing the options to ensure that the consumers get what they have been used to. And this includes seafood products that has been served in the airlines, which have been made available for consumers to purchase them on the ground level, as in at certain restaurant spots. And for example, in Singapore Airlines, it was in the airport itself, where they have a separate, where consumers are able to go and have that experience of dining in the airplane itself at the terminal. So these are some of the things that they continue to provide the options for consumers. When you talk about budget airlines in Malaysia or in Asia, Air Asia has also opted to, or rather started a delivery service. And this includes groceries, and this includes seafood products, which are being used, or rather quite popular in the region as well. I'd like to highlight a recent report by the World Trade Organization that indicated that the coronavirus pandemic has caused a deeper but less prolonged decline in trade. They initially forecast that global trade would contract between 13 and 32% in 2021. However, their most recent estimate for the contraction of global trade last year is 9.2%, and is expected to grow at 7.2% forecast for 2021. So this is how things are turning positive in terms of how businesses are already starting to move. And this is attributed mainly to the lifting of lockdowns, which is facilitating this recovery process. A very important point to note here is that market diversification has become even more important. Businesses are looking at options where they can absorb, or rather cover the broader scale of the consumers. New markets are being sought for supply diversification. They are looking at domestic markets. Domestic markets, in fact, have become even stronger within the region. Seafood demand, no doubt, remains strong. We are in a region where we have among the highest per capita seafood consumption in the world. So our demand for seafood will remain strong. And the domestic market remains the best bet, as in terms of supplying a good supply to the market. Also, particularly during this time when the governments are prioritizing food security. In addition to that, there are also other non-trade barriers which may sort of slow down the international trade, for that matter. The question arises, as in, will this bubble burst? We are moving towards this technology, use of technology, online platforms to do our businesses, to shop, to get our supplies of seafood. I must say there's no specific data available on the volume, or at least the value of seafood products which are sold online. But the fact remains that what we can see is people are still consuming a lot of seafood products in this region. and the demand for products being purchased through online is still there, is still strong. Another fact is food service is being digitized more and more each day. Nearly 50% of the world population is now using social media. It's become a very, very important tool in communicating, in marketing. It's a very important marketing tool right now. Innovation and technology are crafting and molding this path of recovery, this whole adaptation process. And it's definitely characterizing the growth in the industry from now on. And this is something that the businesses should tap on. People are still looking for convenience. I'm already used to buying my groceries online. I'm working from home. I do not have time to go to the mall. I'm afraid I still want to maintain my social distancing. So I need to have the convenience. So you have consumers who will be looking for this way of getting their supplies. We should be looking more and or other businesses should be focusing more on how to cater to the consumers better. The trend of what's going on is very important. People are still looking for longer shelf life products, various variety of products, and I mentioned ready to eat. Most important is ready to cook, particularly for the working class women who want convenience and easy to cook kind of products. No doubt, or it's undeniable that we are actually moving even faster in terms of IT over the past 1 year, even faster than we ever imagined, simply because of this pandemic, how this pandemic has changed our lives. Not a day goes by without us speaking or mentioning something about COVID-19. The way at the rate we are going, we are really fast. And such as, for example, this Tuna Scope app that allows the person who's consuming sashimi or sushi tuna to identify where this tuna has come from. So we are really moving that fast. I'd like to end my presentation with these words from Lazada Group CEO, that e-commerce will become a way of life, and COVID-19 is a catalyst of this digital transformation in Southeast Asia. When consumers build a habit, it doesn't easily go away. So this is something that we should think about. I thank you very much again for the organizers for giving us this opportunity, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherlyn. Our next talk is in a minute. I invite Anilkumar P., Joint Director, MPEDA, for his session talk on preparedness of Indian seafood industry to new normal. Mr. Anilkumar, the screen is yours.
Hello, everyone. I am Anilkumar, Joint Director Marketing of the Marine Products Export Development Authority and the Ministry of Commerce, Government of India. Thanks to Mars International for giving me this opportunity to give this presentation today. And I've been in the seafood industry, seafood sector for the last 29 years. I started with shrimp farming and worked for about 8 years in private sector in Southeast Asia and Madagascar. In Southeast Asia, I was in Thailand, Malaysia, and in Madagascar, I was working in the processing sector. And I worked in shrimp hatcheries, farms, and feed sales also. Now, my presentation will have 3 broad areas. The first area, I will give you a brief introduction to Marine Products Export Development Authority, or the MPEDA, followed by an overall overview of the seafood export scenario from India. Thereafter, I will go to the third section where we will go through the new normal preparedness of the Indian seafood industry. Now, coming to my presentation, my talk will be on the preparedness of Indian seafood industry for the new normal. And as I said, let me give you a brief introduction to MPEDA. MPEDA is the Development and Export Promotion Nodal Agency under the Government of India, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And our activities are mainly under three categories. One is export development and promotion, under which we register the entities which are engaged in export promotion. And we do a lot of market promotion activities like trade fair participation, organizing buyer-seller meets, and trade delegation, etc. Now, the second activity is done through mainly three subsidiary organizations which are registered as not-for-profitable societies under MPEDA. The first organization is Network for Fish Quality Management and Sustainable Fisheries, or in short form, we call it as NetFish, which does activities at the grassroots level among the fisher folk in the country. They organize more than 1,000 programs covering about 35,000 fisher folks every year in sustainable fishing, like introduction of square mesh cordons and catching of minimum legal size, etc., etc. And they also participate in training of the seafood processing workers. Now, the second organization is called NACSA, National Center for Sustainable Aquaculture, which is located in the East Coast. NetFish is on the West Coast. NACSA is in Kakinada in the state of Andhra Pradesh in India. They organize the cluster farming of shrimp farmers mainly. As you may be knowing that more than 90% of shrimp farmers in India are marginal or small-scale farmers. They are maximum 2 hectare area they are farming. So these farmers are organized in clusters called societies by NACSA to implement best management practices so that they become more sustainable. The third society, which is engaged in field level activities, is RGCA, Rajiv Gandhi Center for Aquaculture. They do mainly research, applied research and commercialization of diversified aquaculture. We are dependent mainly on one species or two species of shrimp for our export business. We need to diversify from a dependency on one or two species. So RGCA does exactly the same. The RGCA has developed, commercialized the technologies for sea bass, mangrove crab, tilapia, etc. in India. Now, the third activity, I would say, is MPEDA Quality Control Laboratory. What they do is a series of laboratories are set up in with various coastal states to test the antibiotic residues, insecticide, pesticide residues, and these are done under a program called National Surveillance Plan for Antibiotics, and this is being done on behalf of European Union. And in addition to that, they give testing services for exporters also. The quality control section of MPEDA also operates more than 15 ELISA laboratory for screening of antibiotics. In addition, MPEDA also operates 20 Aqua1 centers through NACSA, National Center for Sustainable Aquaculture, for servicing the farmers. So this is a broadly the activities of MPEDA. Most of our offices are scattered around the coastal states of India. Now, let us come to the export scenario, my second part of the presentation. We know that more than 130 countries India is exporting, and seafood sector contributes about 1.1% of the national GDP and about 5% of the agriculture GDP. India is fourth in terms of seafood export in the global scenario. And if you look at the export trend, as a speaker was saying yesterday, we have reached the peak export during 2017-18 at $7 billion. Thereafter, there was a small reduction, and 2020, you can see the export has come down below $6 billion at $5.9 billion US dollars. And this year, that is the current financial year 2021-22, April to March, the export target is almost 31% more than the previous year's export, that is 7.8 billion. We have put an ambitious export target for this year. Now let us look what was our performance during the last 3 years. Just before we started with the COVID issue, we were around 6.7, and during 2019-20, it came to $6.6 billion, and 2020-21, it further came down by about 10.8% in terms of US dollar value to about $5.956 billion US dollars. Now, I just want to give you a brief idea about the seafood processing infrastructure before we go into the export scenario further. We have around 1,300 exporters registered in India. Only these exporters are able to export. Now, there are about 537 processing units, of which 326 are EU-approved processing units. And India can produce about 26,000 metric tons of frozen seafood material per day, and there are about 576 frozen cold storages with a capacity of 287,000 tons. And if you look at the value addition, which is a thrust area for India, the number of cooking facilities are very less, 31 only, with about 380 tons per day capacity. And IQ of freezing capacity is about 202 numbers. Freezing capacity is about 3,267 tons. We have 14 surimi processing units also, and they are doing extremely well. And just to give you a summary of our export scenario, 2020-21 exports dropped by 10%. In fact, in the first quarter, it was down more than 50%, and the third quarter it started picking up, and last quarter it rebounded back, and we reached a reduction of only 10% in terms of US dollar and quantity. USA and China were the major importers of Indian seafood last year. And as I said, this year we have put an ambitious target of 7.8 billion, and we have, what is our performance so far? We have achieved about 4.6 billion by October 31st, 2021. We are right on the track. Now, just to give you an idea about the contribution of aquaculture when compared to capture fisheries, aquaculture in terms of US dollar is contributing a major share. You can see that the value was 63.58% in 1920. It increased to 67.98, and there is a consequent reduction in the share of capture fisheries as well. And you can also see that the US dollar unit value per kilogram is higher for aquaculture because mainly shrimp is farmed and exported from India. And the aquaculture capture fisheries contribution reduced from about 56 to 53% during last 2 years. And the unit value of capture fisheries is 3.37 in 2019-20. It came down to 3.10 last year. Now, when you look at the what are items we are exporting from India, as expected, India exported about 590,000 metric ton of shrimp with a value of US dollar 4.4 billion, accounting for a share of about 74% in terms of US dollar. And among the shrimp, Vaname shrimp had a major share of 83%, followed by black tiger shrimp last year. This year, we can see a picking up of the black tiger shrimp with the introduction of SPF black tiger seeds in the country. And frozen fish and surimi products secured second and third position in terms of quantity and value. The other major items are cuttlefish, squid, and dried items. You can very well see these items in the graph. Now, let us look at the markets. USA, China, and EU are the top 3 markets last year, followed by Southeast Asia, Japan, Middle East, and other markets. USA, with a US dollar share of 41.15%, imported about 292,000 metric ton of shrimp valued about 2.45 billion. And it is an important market for us. It retained its first position this year also. And India is the topmost exporter of shrimp to US. And China came second with a share of 15.8%. China imported about 220,000 metric ton of seafood, worth about 0.94 billion. And you can see that the value of China's import is only 0.94 billion. This is because a large chunk of export to China is frozen fish, like low value fishes like ribbon fish and croakers. Now, coming to the states which are exporting to various countries, the state of Andhra Pradesh on the East Coast, it became the number one, or is retaining the number one position for the last few years, because Andhra Pradesh is having the largest number of shrimp farms in India. It is followed by Tamil Nadu and West Bengal, again on the east coast of India, and Kerala, which is on the west coast. In terms of quantity, also the same trend almost is maintained. Now, we are facing market access issues. I'll just give you a brief idea about it in one slide. We have issues with antibiotic residues in farmed shrimp in EU and Japan. Japan has fortunately removed all the barriers for the export of black tiger shrimp from India. There is no border checking in Japan for black tiger shrimp. Only for Wanamai shrimp, the antibiotic residue issue is persisting in EU and Japan now. And about 7 markets, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, China, Thailand, Canada, and South Korea, we are facing the market access issue due to biosecurity, because they don't want any pathogens like white spot virus in the exported shrimp, which is a very difficult challenge for any country to meet. And the third issue we face as far as market access is concerned is sustainability issue, mainly with USA. There is Section 609 of the US public law, which mandates use of turtle excluder devices in all the trawlers in India, which we are not able to achieve so far. The second issue we face with sustainability as far as USA is concerned is Marine Mammal Protection Act, which will be implemented from 1st January 2023. India is trying to fulfill the conditions of Marine Mammal Protection Act, and by 30th we need to file the comparability finding application to US, so that they will evaluate it during the next year, and we will know the results by the end of 2022, whether India can export the wild-caught fishes to USA or not. Suppose we are able to address the issue of antibiotic and biosecurity, easily we can capture about more than $2 billion worth of exports to various countries. And right now, we are losing about $300 million worth of wild-caught shrimp export to US alone because of the Section 609, which requires the shrimp trawlers in India to fit TED. We are in the process of discussion with the US authorities, and they have asked us to modify the TED design of India, which we have done, and the trials are in progress. Hopefully, once the trials are completed and the TED is implemented in India, we will get certified under the US Public Law Section 609 for exporting to USA. Now, what are the things we have done to prepare for the new normal? Of course, it is not a complete preparation, it is work in progress, I would say. Now, let me start with our first experience when the lockdown started in India during March 2020. Our exporters were not able to send the export documents as hard copy to importing countries, and there was issues with clearance of cargo. Now, what we have done is within about a month and a half, we have made most of the export documents like DS 2031 certificate to export shrimp to USA, catch certificate for fulfilling the IUU conditions of European Union. All these certificates were made online so that exporters no need to come to any of the MPEDA offices to apply and get these certificates, as well as the importing countries also thankfully started accepting this electronic documentation. That was the first thing we have done. And Then another issue was lack of manpower in importing countries for clearing the cargo. We had to work with our Indian embassies across globe, for example, Vietnam, Dubai, USA, China, to clear a lot of containers during the first half of the last year, 2020. There were payment issues, especially with China. China imposed an unjustifiable condition for India and a few other countries. They started checking the seafood containers for the nucleic acid material of COVID. This has caused a lot of delay in the cargo clearance, and this has resulted in payment problems for exporters. And our embassy started working with the buyers and with MPEDA to clear most of the issues. 58 out of 114 such clearances, such payment has been cleared already. The others are almost done. We hope that it will be done very fast. And other issue is a common issue which is faced by all the countries: shortage of containers and very high cost of sea freight. We are trying to address that issue, but I would say that this is a work in progress. Now, coming to the market promotion activities, a lot of important trade fairs were cancelled. What do we do? We can't do any buyer-seller meets. We can't do any trade delegations. No person-to-person meeting is possible. We started with virtual buyer-seller meets. During last year, 2020-21 financial year, we could do about 25 virtual buyer-seller meets where an importer will be able to meet an exporter one-to-one for negotiation. We have done it with over 10 countries. These 25 virtual buyer-seller meets were conducted. This year, we are targeting about 30 plus. We have already closed 15 virtual buyer-seller meets with various countries. And in addition, we have also tried to participate in online trade fairs, international seafood exhibitions in Japan and USA during last year. And this year, right now, November onwards, we are participating in Hong Kong Asia Seafood Reconnect online show as well. Another issue which we had to address locally was the COVID preparedness for the seafood processing, and farms were not a major issue. Seafood processing and fishing harbors. We came out with a COVID guideline based on the international guidelines prescribed by FAO, WHO, Center for Disease Control USA, etc. And it was translated into local languages, published in our website, and we have also published hard copies which was distributed to the seafood processors. And we not only did the physical release of the COVID guideline booklets, we have done it in video format also. A lot of videos were prepared and released in local languages. And just to give you an idea about our seafood export promotion program, we did for the first time a global launch of an advertisement in BBC during last year. Indian seafood. And that was the first time we have done a video advertisements across the TV channels around the globe. And we also became very active in social media. We could get about 65,000 followers during last year itself. And we have also come out with some cooking videos, which are quite popular in some of the markets. I will show you those videos in the next slide. And another issue which we had to address was we used to conduct a lot of training programs, physical training programs for value addition and introduction of new technology, etc. What we have done is we tried some virtual workshops. For example, we conducted a soft shell crab production and export workshop with experts from Singapore. And there was another workshop last year we conducted with live transportation of shrimp, again with the experts from Europe. And we could do such 2 workshops last year. And this year we are planning another series of workshops on seafood value addition, a virtual workshop. And we could, last year, we could have about 101 exporters and farmers with 8 experts who participated in these 2 online workshops. And this is the online cooking videos we have released, just a sample.
Shrimply delicious. Shrimp ghee pepper roast. Shrimp slow cooked with Indian spices and herbs, an authentic South Indian seafood delicacy that you can make at home. Let's cook something shrimply delicious. Heat the skillet on a low flame and dry roast the masala until it turns fragrant. Turn off the flame, allow the mix to cool. Grind this to make a coarse masala mix. Heat the ghee in a frying pan. Add garlic, crushed peppercorns, and cook till the garlic is golden brown. Add the curry leaves, sliced onion, and saute till the onions are pale brown. Add the masala mix, jaggery, tamarind pulp, and mix well. Add the freshly peeled Indian Vaname shrimps and cook for 3 to 4 minutes. Add salt, half cup of water, and cook till the water is completely reduced. Serve with Indian breads or rice. That's it. Shrimp ghee pepper roast is now ready. Shrimple cooking, shrimply delicious.
Last year, we have done about 6 such videos, and we are continuing with the same type of videos this year also, because we get very good positive response from the public. And now coming to other activities, we have kind of facilitated ease of doing business, especially with the registration of entities, and not only reduce the cumbersome procedures to very simple format, and also we have increased the renewal from 2 years to 3 years. And the aquatic quarantine facility, which is operated by the MPEDA Rajiv Gandhi Center for Aquaculture in Chennai, they have continued to assist the import of broodstock of Vanamai shrimp, which will supply the broodstock to the hatcheries during the last year also. And we are also doing antibiotic screening in more than 15 ELISA labs. And we set up 4 more ELISA labs during last year, and we have made it completely online so that the farmer who want to test his farmed shrimp can apply the entire process through online. A sample collector will come and collect the shrimp, and he will get the results online. And then another issue which we had to tackle was, I was telling about COVID guidelines. We did not simply give the COVID guidelines. We have also advised the exporters how to take care of the seafood packaging material so that they will not have any rejections from, especially from China, because of their testing of COVID nucleic acid material on seafood packaging. And then we also had to take care of the people. We have conducted many training programs for seafood processing units. We started with an online training program for the seafood quality control managers, and followed by the quality control managers train the seafood processing workers also. And we were talking about the sea freight issues, loss of connectivity, especially for export of chilled fish and chilled shrimp. We tried with Thailand to send our fishing vessels, which are fishing in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which is close to Thailand and Malaysia. Directly, these fishing vessels can go to especially Thailand, Ranong, and the Thai authorities have reduced the reporting time from 72 hours to 36 hours because of the effort we have taken with our embassy in Thailand. And another island we have focused is Lakshadweep Islands, which is on the west coast near Maldives. We have tried to promote the export of especially tuna. Lakshadweep is known for tuna by organizing buyer-seller meet between the exporters and fisher folks in Lakshadweep. And we know that the fishing harbor infrastructure needs a lot of improvement. We have developed a DPR, a detailed project report for a modern fishing harbor of international standards for a fishing harbor in Kochi, Kerala. And the government of India noticed that, and they have announced in 2021 budget for the development of 5 major fishing harbors in Kochi, Chennai, Visakhapatnam, Paradeep, and Pettuagat, that is entire East Coast, in addition to Kochi on the West Coast. Now, I was talking about the processing unit and the aquaculture farmers, etc. Now, we are also engaging with fishermen on a online mode. We have conducted a number of workshops with fishermen online. We are collecting data of daily fish landings from more than 100 fishing harbors, and there are harbor data collectors in each fishing harbor. These harbor data collectors conduct virtual meetings with fishermen to train them on sustainability, post-harvest management, etc. And we have also conducted an online consultative workshop, the refinement of marine products of marine fish and marine fisheries management in East and West Coast of India exclusively for the state governments of the both the East and West Coast. These are some of the activities. I won't say that we are fully prepared for the new normal, as we are aware that there are many things to be done. One of the things which we are thinking about is to link the entire export documentations. An exporter has to go through about 14 different private and government public agencies before his consignment is sent to an importing country. So we are trying to develop an online platform to facilitate the same. These are some of the issues we are trying to tackle to the challenges of the new normal. And I would like to thank once again the organizers, MAS International, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'll be very happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anilkumar. Now the session is open for discussion. We have received few questions from our audience. The first question is to Ms. Sherlyn by Nilima. What alternatives should be made available to the fishermen in the time of crisis with respect to digital transformation in supply chain management?
Thank you, Roslyn. I think in this, I would suggest that, well, based on also experience in some of the countries in the region, I think working with the Fishermen's Association, there's a lot that can be done in terms of helping the fishermen to cope with this, this particular issue. I think that will be the suggestion that I would give.
Thank you, ma'am. We have another question. Next question is to Mr. Anilkumar by Siddharth. Could you elaborate about the buyer-seller meet organized by MPEDA? Have viscous inquiries increased as a result of this?
Thank you, Siddharth, for the question. In fact, the virtual buyer-seller meet, what we do is when the buyers, we identify the buyers and get their requirements, especially the specifications of the buyers, product specifications. Based on these product specifications, we identify the exporters, we circulate it among the exporters, and the exporters who are able to supply these particular product will be lined up for one-to-one virtual buyer-seller meets. The exporters give a presentation to the buyer, and the buyer will, of course, ask questions. And then thereafter, they will continue to engage. Usually, we have maximum 10 exporters for a buyer-seller meet, because each exporter will take about 5 to 7 minutes. That takes about 1.5 hours to 2 hours for one buyer. So based on the buyer-seller meets, out of 10 or 7 exporters, the buyer will prioritize as per his requirement, 3 or 4. Then he will continue to work with them. And from our experience, what we have seen is we have same buyers coming back again and again for new product requirements. So that means there is some benefit. And exporters also have given positive response with more inquiries coming from the buyers. Even if they have not shortlisted them, they may come back to the exporter after some time, few months, with some new requirements. So there is some benefit to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have another question to Ms. Sherlin. Is this digital transformation common in all Asia-Pacific countries?
Yes, I think definitely. In most countries within Asia, that has been one of the main ways, or the fastest ways through which businesses have been reaching consumers. This is what we have observed, and through our connections or our contacts in the countries within Asia.
Thank you, ma'am. We have another question to Mr. Anilkumar by Peter Sam. What are the steps taken by MPEDA to simplify the export facilitation certificates? What feedback have the seafood exporters given for the initiative by MPEDA?
Of course, seafood exporters are happy with the the facilitation we have done. There are about a dozen type of export certification which we need to give for various markets. I'm talking about the certificates issued by MPEDA. So we have made all these certificates online. So exporter can apply for these certificates sitting in his office or in his home, and we will issue these certificates online. So there is no physical handing over of the certificate to MPEDA and then MPEDA approving as we used to do before the pandemic. And similarly, the approved certificates, the exporter can send it online to importing countries, either to the buyers, and in the case of some certificates like cash certificate, they can send to importing countries' authorities also. For example, the cash certificate, when they submit to the importing country authorities, the importing countries' authorities will be able to cross-check with our website. The authorities in importing countries are given access to our website or our online platform so that they can cross-check with our website and our online platform to ensure the authenticity. This has facilitated the trade to a large extent, and exporters are happy because they have a more efficient system in place. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Seems like there are no more questions. Thank you, Ms. Sherlin and Mr. Anilkumar, for joining the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosalie. Thank you.
The next talk starts in a minute.
People have relied on the oceans as a source of food and for their livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we have become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSC standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognized as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all three principles of the MSC standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSC uses its blue eco-label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco-label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco-label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together.
Now, I invite Nasir Hamid, Senior Corporate Director, Global Quality and Food Safety Systems, Acadian Sea Plants, to give a session talk on global leadership in natural seaweed-based food, feed, and plant health products. Mr. Nasir, the screen is yours.
Hi, Roslyn. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you guys are in the world. This is Nasir Hamid. I'm Senior Corporate Director for Acadian Sea Plants Limited from Canada. And I look after global quality, food safety, innovations, commercialization, regulatory affairs for the company. For its 16 countries business and the markets over about 85 countries in the world. And company is known for its manufacturing of feed, food, and crop and land enhancers and soil applications from seaweeds using the marine agriculture resources. So I am here with the support of MAS International, and I really am thankful to them to facilitate this session and for us to stage the best practices that our company is doing on the sustainable seaweed manufacturing side. So if we look at the history of the world, seaweed has been here for more than 4 billion years. So all the studies that have been done on the earth, they have shown that we came much further and later than the seaweed itself. Even the fisheries and Mesozoic eras and all the mammals and first human ancestors or whatever and modern man, everything came much later than seaweed. So the history of the seaweed from the marine resources for food perspective or for feed perspective have been there forever. So talking about 4.6 billion years. Here are some examples of seaweeds that are popular, and these are the ones which are being produced, manufactured, harvested, cultivated all over the world. You can see about 11,000 species in the world, and main species that are the species of interest are Ascophyllum nodosum. You can see right here. Then I would say nori. On the food sector side, nori is one of the major species, and we have fucus. It goes both on the feed side and food side. And then we have other species like Organised and stuff. I will talk about those a little bit later. So here are, in Canada, we are in North Atlantic area, which faces Europe and very close to the Atlantic Oceans. These species are very, very important. Like I said, Asclepiadum nodosum, Fucus, Palmaria, Laminaria, digitata, and Chondrus crispus. So just wanted to put them here as a listing to make sure that you guys have a little bit background of what species are produced here in North Atlantic and North America side. This is company's overview of where companies' businesses are. We are in Canada, in US, in Scotland, we are in India, we are in Japan, we are in Brazil, Mexico, Iceland, Ireland, and UK. So about 16 countries of the world, and with different type of seaweed production going on in those areas. We will talk in big details later. These are some of the governmental awards and awards from different universities that we carry. I think the best thing is that we are one of the Canadian best managed companies and platinum member of those. So best practices of the businesses are adapted here. This is small, I will say small because we have more certification or sustainable certification than this. But you can see that we are FDA certified, CFIA certified, we are EU approved facilities. We are halal, kosher, organic, HACCP approved. We are ISO approved, and we have GFSI, which is Global Food Safety Initiative scheme like SQF, and lots of other certification depending upon our markets. So you can see in Canada, in Ireland, India, Scotland, and different countries, we have good sustainable certification for that. So our company basically works in 3 different areas: plants welfare, animal welfare, and people welfare. So still using the seaweeds and the species from all over the world, we are able to produce very effective means of nutrition for animals and pets, for people as direct food and ingredients into the food, and also for plants and soils applications. So company has 3 different business units or divisions: plant, Acadian Plant Health, APH, then ASD, the Animal Science Division, then FSD, Food Science Division. So we'll talk a little bit more about these things. Everything starts with responsible resourcing of the seaweeds. So you know that the seaweeds, they grow into the marine areas where tides go up and down, and then by those tide timing, the seaweed naturally grow in the sea, or the banks of the sea, shores of the sea comes up. So our scientists are always there. They do the biomass assessments, they do the habitat research and monitoring, and the teams are always there to monitor the health and sustainability of the seaweeds and approval of those seaweeds before they are harvested and brought into our processing facilities. Same that I was talking about, and there's a lot of extensive reporting needed because you have to collect the data on environment side, on seaweed production side, on the different species and their interaction with each other, depending upon the business needs and the needs of how the sustainable business has to go, because you cannot take all the crop out. So there are regulations all over the world that how much seaweeds you can harvest and how much you have to be. So the stock, the root stock of all the national seaweeds has to be kept in an eco-friendly and sustainable manner attached to its sprouts. We cannot take everything out from the sea. We have to have only 15, 16% or even less than that to cut and take to cut the production and leave the rest there to grow more. So it basically enhances its cultivation and its harvesting over years and years. So this is why we call it a sustainable and eco-friendly harvesting method. We are also considered as best managed marine resources in Canada. Environmental practices, like I said, have to be very much on our task, not only here, but also in US, in our US operations, in Ireland, Scotland, and no matter where we are in the world, we try to adapt to the environmental best practices for sustainable management. But all starts with a solid science and solid research. So in Cornwallis, Nova Scotia, Canada, we have a huge research center, which is called as Dr. Craigy's James S. Craigy Research Center. And it is managed by Acadian Sea Plant in coordination with Dalhousie University's research departments. So we have, I think, about 15 to 18 PhDs and postdocs, doctorate researchers working there, who they are always looking for the different species of food and feed applications and crop applications and testing them in our pilot plants and our pilot fields. So this is the core of our company's production systems and our supply chain system, that everything starts with a strong, solid scientific research of the seaweed applications. Here you see our facility in Nova Scotia, in Yarmouth, which basically produces Ascophyllum nodosum species harvesting, and then produces the animal feed and also food ingredients, specialty ingredients for global, for our health, beauty, nutraceutical, and dairy applications. So same facility is approved by FDA and CFIA for feed manufacturing and also food ingredients manufacturing for further application and further processing. We have another facility in Penfield, New Brunswick, which does the same type of applications and processing that Yarmouth does, but mostly to the Gulf meal into the animal feed supplements and soil amendment applications. In Ireland, in Aramara, Ireland, our company has the Ascophyllum nodosum seaweed processing facility in Galway, Ireland, and that facility is in transition right now to also start food ingredient processing in addition to its feed, that which is already being produced and sold all over the world from Ireland. Same, we have a great business in Scotland as we have in Ireland. So facility is basically using Ascophyllum nodosum and some of the fucus species to produce animal feed. So these are some of the examples of our seaweed going into medicinal side, into nutraceutical side, into food sector, food and beverage sector, and crop applications, then pet foods and animal foods. So it's in this way we are basically covering the soil which the animal and food is attached to, and from there we built on the sustainable supply chain system going forward to feeding those animals and then producing the food for the human being for the application. So it's basically an integrated system of using the seaweeds in a very sustainable way. Along with our feed and food side, one of the bigger business for Acadian Sea Plant is to use Ascophyllum nodosum seaweeds and produce extracts and liquid concentrates and powders for soil application, for horticulture, for food and fruits and vegetables, inhibitors and soil growth enhancers and crop, in several ways. A lot of biological systems that are attached to the agriculture production. This center is world leader. I think this is the largest facility in the world to use the seaweed and produce the agriculture products from standalone seaweed and produce it for all over the world agriculture markets. This is some of the pictures of that facility. And these are some of the products that this Cornwallis plant, Acadian plant, health plant, processing plant products. And similar facilities are in Brazil, India, and Mexico as well. And we have business in Brazil and Colombia. for the crop applications and agriculture solutions. Now, being in the food sector, this is, you can see, this is a huge facility in Charleston, Nova Scotia, where we have a species of seaweed which is called as Condus crispus. We grow it ourselves. We take the root, root stock from the open wild natural sea and ocean resources, and then we bring it to our research and development centers like Reddy Center and also our research center in Charleston, and we go through the hatching process, like for the animal hatcheries. Like we make sure that we grow those rootstock for the further growth of Condus crispus into our controlled aquaculture farming system. So you can see there are, several ponds of water that we use, and we grow we call them grow outs. So we take our seaweed and then we grow it out into these ponds. And this is specifically for the food sector, and mostly for Japan, Korea, and Far East countries. This is where the Condus crispus seaweed is used as a direct application to the food and also as an ingredient to the different foods that we have. And it has a lot of benefits of pharmaceutical perspective, nutrition perspective, skin care, and I will give you a little bit more examples as we go forward. So this you see that this business started in 1981, and there are 53 cultivation ponds of 8 acres each. So you can tell that this is by far the world's largest on-land seaweed aquaculture facility for food applications. Here is some example of some pictures of how we do the drying of seaweed, and how do we do the quality assurance, and how we make sure that there's no foreign matter in the seaweed, because most of the time these are directly used as a food. So it's very classified in a very confidential system in which we operate, and we make sure that the food application of Condus crispus is 100% ready to serve and ready to eat situations. And these plants are SQF plants, and these plants are all FDA, EU, CFI approved facilities. These are some products of these food side. Hana Sonomata is very popular brand in Japan. I've been to Japan and I have seen it personally, that how people like it into their salads and soups. Very premium product. It's a bit costly, but it's worth it. And it comes in different colors. So we take the natural seaweed, and in a very natural, organic, and halal processing system, we convert its color to different colors. In Japan, they need to have 5 or 6 different colors, and every color means something for their health and nutrition. And we make sure that we provide them those different colors into their food and the seaweed that they want to have it as ready to eat. So seaweeds not only just have food application, but they're very rich in minerals, they're very rich in nutrients, trace elements. They are very rich in prebiotics. For example, in prebiotics, for the pollen histomorphology elevation, this really works very good, especially in animal. And potential gelling components. Carrageenan is one of the gelling and thickening agent that is widely used in confectionaries and in beverages all over the world. And seaweed is a very good source of that. Seaweeds, Ascophyllum nodosum, fucus are highly source of magnesium and potassium. And laminaria is a good source of iodine. So you can see that thyroid health situations can be cured and can be helped. Proper cell rejuvenation for skin, appetite control, and inhibits the fat absorption in their diets. So this is why you can see that in Japanese markets and Korean markets, Far East markets, this product is very popular. There are some more examples of beneficial applications of our seaweed. hydration, skin hydration. So it keeps the skin rejuvenated and doesn't let it dry, especially, for example, in high sun areas or in colder area like Canada and in Iceland. Seaweed application and seaweed application into cosmetic products is very popular. These products are very specialized and you can find them in different pharmacies, but definitely ask for seaweed-based cosmetics. And you can see here, average woman, there's some study which shows that they approximately use 15, 16 different cosmetic products in their daily applications, which may have more than 20, 30 ingredients in it. But seaweed basically gives you that natural, very organic way of cosmetics, which does not really hurt your skin. So it provides UV protection, skin renewal, and right viscosity to hold onto your skin for longer time. In the future outlooks, what are we looking for? What we are looking for is creating clean labels now. We are working on reducing the environmental impacts of seaweed productions, anti-aging area to work on, antiviral areas, slowing down and eradicating the diseases like heart, brain, and blood diseases. Fucus is very effective when it comes to alcohol-induced liver damage. It can help the situation to cure it. Beneficial effects of marine algal compounds in cosmetics and nutraceuticals. Health benefit of algal polysaccharides in human nutrition. And in the new food products, we are working on several projects of using the seaweeds to enhance the shelf life quality of products and also to make sure that the texture of the product is enhanced and retained. So there are several projects that we can do with seaweed. I would say that in the current situation where people are looking for 100% organic, 100% natural, 100% free of chemicals and free of preservatives and free of different type of I would say unnatural means and sources of food and body care and animal care, welfare, and also the soil applications. Seaweed it's a treasure of the world and Almighty that has given to us to use, and it's present in abundance all over the world. Wherever the water tides are there, you will find some kind of seaweed there. And company has done a beautiful job, a great job in securing that for the world in sustainable way. I have a small video to show to you at the end of my talk, and then if somebody has any comment, we can go back.
Some hands have held the world together. Some hands have fought in wars forever. Tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? I saw seaweed all my life. From the time that I was a little boy and my father using it as an ingredient in growing his crops. It produces almost magic. My father has had a passion for seaweed his whole life. In 1981, I remember coming home from university and my mother said to me, by the way, you don't have a bedroom here anymore. Father's taken it over. He started this company called Acadian Sea Plants. And he said to me, do you want to see what we can build together? Do you want to see what we can create? What we've been able to do is take an underutilized marine plant, create these incredible products. Today, we have hundreds of employees located all over the world. We export our products to over 80 countries. We invested in technology, and we saw that we could show how these products could help grow crops, help improve the health of animals, and help humans in terms of their food production. Every day you see new things in relation to seaweed.
as the year passes, I keep excited about my work because I can see that a lot of people benefiting from this resource. 131.
One of the things that's very unique about our product is the seaweed, Ascophyllum nodosum. That seaweed grows in the intertidal zone, and it has an extremely tough existence. In the summertime, it dries out in the sun. In the wintertime, it's frozen solid in a block of ice, and it's learned to survive.
So how does it do it? It does it by developing, through the evolution of the seaweed, special compound that eventually we extract from the plant and we use it for our own product.
And that extract imparts those tough qualities into plants, animals, and humans.
We rigorously test our products. We can make many claims about what seaweeds do, but we have to build a foundation of factual science that can support efficacy and why a person would actually spend their money to buy an Acadian product.
We have over 30 researchers that work full-time at Acadian Sea Plants. Those people work in conjunction with research institutions and academic institutions located here, but also around the world.
Our research is not something that is just internally generated and we say how good the product is, but it is something that has passed the test of peer review.
I knew I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was 6 years old. I've always loved seaweed. My PhD thesis was growing seaweeds on land.
One of the things that we've been able to develop is a cultivated line of marine plants, Chondrus crispus.
There's nobody else doing this in the world, so we have to develop everything from scratch. All of the seaweed that you see out on this farm right now, it all started 18 months ago as a tiny little piece about the size of your thumbnail. The plant actually spends more of its time indoors than it does outdoors. You have larger and larger tanks and vessels that biomass grows in. Eventually, you get out here and you've got these giant tanks. The Japanese, who we normally sell to, they want every single piece to look exactly the same, and we can provide that here because we have such control of these tanks.
We have a consistency of product that is unequaled anywhere on this planet.
I see a whole bunch more tanks being built out there one day. This place is going to be huge.
We've mapped out every bed of seaweed so that we can understand the quantity that we can harvest on a sustainable basis.
Because this resource doesn't belong to the company. It belongs to all generations that are coming after us.
The products that we make, the solutions that we bring to customers really make a difference. That to me is extremely exciting.
We do so many good things. The world is different because of Acadian Sea Plants.
Okay, and that was my talk and also the video. So I get it back to Rosemary, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Nasir. Now the session is open for discussion. We have a question from Suman Sundar. What were the challenges you faced while trading seaweed-based products, as it has various other alternatives in the current market?
Okay. The challenges, first of all, thank you very much. Good question. The challenges that you face all over the world is basically to keep a sustainable and consistent supply chain, because it's a natural phenomena and you have to manipulate your times and your management of harvesting and processing and handling of the seaweed according to the natural resources that you have. Because if we would not do that, we will basically be then manipulating the nature and changing it, modifying it to our needs. This is what company has taken a hard stop and said, No, we will modify ourselves according to the sustainable harvesting of timing, of quantities, and also the availability all over the world. So our research scientists and our resource teams are going all over the world, trying to find the best quality of harvesting seaweeds, instead of we pushing the areas to manipulate and produce to our desires. That is one of the challenges that we always face. It's a challenge and opportunity. I hope I answered your question.
We have one more question from Sainaba to Mr. Nasser. What are other innovative products that can be made using seaweed in the food sector?
In the food sector, like I said in my last slide, that we are working on shelf-stable, ready-to-eat products now. I mean, most of the use of the seaweed that it has done before is into the salad mixes and into as a second ingredient to a major food line. So we are in a process right now with our market intelligence in Japan, especially, to work on the products which can be ready to eat, ready to serve, shelf-stable, more nutraceutical-based, more medicinal value-based, and more nutritional value-based products as a value-added product ready to eat, ready to serve, not just as a secondary ingredient into salad or into soup. So this is where we're moving now. And with COVID, and especially the challenges that COVID has given to us and to all the human beings, to have food on our table, which is natural, less preservative, no chemicals, totally organic, seaweed can be a good source of those. And this is what our next research is going on.
Seems like there are no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Nasser Hamid, for your response.
Rosalind, you're most welcome, and your team is most welcome. I again thank you, thank you and your team, and also MASS International, for them to provide us opportunity to state our products and our company at this global e-conference. And I look forward to any other comments. You guys can reach me out at the LinkedIn or through MASS International resources. You can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to answer your question or provide more resources on this side. I thank you all. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you. Thank you. Now it's time to have a session break. The next session will be on traceability for improved seafood safety.
Their livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we've become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea, and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSC standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognized as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all three principles of the MSC standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSC uses its blue eco-label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco-label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco-label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together. People have relied on the oceans as a source of food and for their livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we have become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea, and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSC standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognized as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all three principles of the MSC standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSC uses its blue eco-label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco-label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco-label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together. People have relied on the oceans as a source of food and for their livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we have become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSC standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognized as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all three principles of the MSC standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSC uses its blue eco-label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco-label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco-label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together.
Sorry for the delay. I've had a little computer problem here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I apologize. I have a government computer. It has very strict, and there was a question asking me, it was completely blocked by the screen, asking me yes or no. I apologize. I couldn't see it. I couldn't move my screen. I was just waiting, and I'm here now, though. I apologize.
It's okay, no problem.
Wireless computer as well. I thought there was a problem with my connection, so I'm here and ready to go.
Yes, yes. Now we have session 6 on traceability for improved seafood safety, presented by 2 speakers. I invite Stanley Surfling, Aquaculture Policy Specialist, Office of Food Safety, Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, USFDA, to give a session talk on reduced food safety risks with good aquaculture practices. Mr. Stanley, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Again, my apologies to everyone for the delay. My government-issued computer was causing me some trouble. But thank you very much, Mass International, for inviting me to participate in the program. And as it's noted, my name is Stanley Surfling. I work at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. I'm what's called a consumer safety officer, but my area of specialization is aquaculture policy. And I've been at the FDA for 21 years. I used to work at the Center for Veterinary Medicine, where I was a research biologist in the aquaculture program. And for the past 13 years, I've been at the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, and I work in the Office of Food Safety. We're located in College Park, Maryland, which is just about 10 miles to the north of downtown Washington, D.C. We're also right next to the University of Maryland, and we do a lot of work with the University of Maryland and their scientists there. Prior to working at the FDA, I was involved in aquaculture research at the University of Maryland, and then I was also involved in the private sector on the West Coast in California prior to that. So I've been in the aquaculture and seafood business for more than 40 years. So I would like to begin my presentation here. I'll share my screen. There we go. Let me just move this over here. Okay, hopefully you can see that, everyone. We can minimize this. There we go. Okay, again, the title of my presentation is to reduce food safety risk with good aquaculture practices. And my presentation is going to be in three parts. I'm going to begin talking a little bit about seafood consumption in the United States. Then I'm going to talk about seafood HACCP and the principles behind it, and then how these principles can be applied to what we call good aquaculture practices. In the United States, we import a lot of seafood, approximately 90%. It varies from year to year. It's been as high as 94% a few years ago. The average consumption rate per person is 8 kilograms per year, and shrimp is the most popular product at 2.1 kilograms per year. The top 10 seafood products that Americans eat are shrimp, number one, then salmon, canned tuna, Alaskan pollock, tilapia, cod, catfish, crab, Pangasius catfish, which is the Vietnamese catfish, and then clams. The products there you see that are in the blue colored font, what they all have in common is they are primarily farm-raised products. So more than half of the consumption in the US is from farm-raised products. Primary reasons for seafood products being refused by the FDA. Number one is decomposition and filth, followed by pathogens and drug residues. Those are the most serious problems because they are health risks. There's some administrative things that can cause a product to be refused, missing documentation, or if the labels are not correct. That is another reason. Some of the challenges that processors have with aquaculture products is there's a wide variety of aquaculture operations. There's a wide variety of temperature, water quality, salinity, and so forth. You have net pen systems and open water. You have farm that are pond systems, earth systems, and then you have tank systems on land. So each of these present different challenges for the processor. Just a little bit about regulations. FDA's regulatory authority for seafood is from the Code of Federal Regulations, which is CFR, the acronym, and it's Part 123, which is for fish and fisheries products. There's a long list of subcategories, but I'm just going to talk about or mention these three here. And that is that every processor shall conduct or have conducted for it a hazard analysis. Every processor shall have a written HACCP plan and have implemented that plan. And all processors, both foreign and domestic, should have the same requirements under FDA regulations. There's a link at the bottom here in blue that you can go to and you can read in more detail about it. That's on the FDA website. So what is seafood HACCP? Well, first, HACCP, it stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. And the concepts for HACCP and how it began actually goes back to the 1960s when the United States was putting astronauts into space, sending them to the moon and back. And of course, they had to have food along on those trips, and they were concerned about food illness. So they developed these concepts of making sure that the food the astronauts were taking would not make them sick. HACCP is widely known around the world. There's a training program. There's a picture here of a curriculum guide, the blue cover, that is taught by, not by the FDA, but by an association of food and drug officials. It's called AFDO. And they teach this program to hundreds of people, thousands of people every year. There's a cost involved in it, and part of it is done online. They use this FDA Fish and Fisheries Products Hazards Guide. It's now available online. The cover here, this tan-colored cover, is from the 4th edition, which was last printed in April of 2011. Now the 5th edition is only online, and you can go to this link below here in blue, and you can get the 5th edition. You can download the entire document, which is about 500 pages, or you can download individual chapters. So we'll talk here just very briefly about the principles of HACCP. Many of you are probably familiar with these. There's 7 of them. The first one being that you conduct a hazard analysis, then you determine critical control points, you establish critical limits, you monitor the procedures going on, then you have a corrective action if you need to correct any actions from a critical limit that's been extended outside of what the limit is. You verify procedures, and then there's, of course, record keeping and documentation. These are the 7 principles. And if you apply these principles, you end up with, this is a table from Chapter 11 in the Hazards Guide. This is example number 2, which is supplier certification or letter of guarantee. This is for controlling drug residues. And these 7 principles are then kind of spelled out here, left to right in this table. You have a critical control point, which is the receiving point when the product is coming to the processor. The significant hazard identified as aquaculture drugs. You have a critical limit, which in this case, it's the supplier certificate guaranteeing that drugs have been properly used according with the regulation. We have a monitoring section here: what, how, frequently, and who, corrective action, record keeping, and verification. So this is an example of one of several that's in the hazards guide for controlling aquaculture drugs from Chapter 11. If you end up having an inspection by an FDA inspector, they're going to look at your HACCP plan, make sure that the HACCP plan has identified correctly all the hazards. And then they're going to go through and follow each of the steps. The picture on the right here, you see the FDA inspector who's looking at records. They do quite an extensive look at the records. And she's got a copy of the hazards guide there to refer to during her inspection. Okay. Now we'll talk about good aquaculture practices and how the HACCP principles can be applied to the farm and how they will help control contamination at the farm level. This is a definition for good aquaculture practices that I found on the internet. And it says good aquaculture practices. The acronym that we use at the FDA is GAQP. And the reason for that is we also have a good agricultural practices program. And good agricultural practices is focused on produce. And that acronym is GAP. So to distinguish between the two, we use the GAQP for good aquaculture practices. And the definition says this is a series of procedures and protocols designed to foster efficient and responsible aquaculture and to help ensure product quality, safety, and environmental sustainability. GAPS is also, it's a food safety and disease prevention program. We like to think of it that way. Most food safety hazards originate at the farm and are preventable. Most countries that export seafood have some type of GAP program. They're voluntary, they're flexible, and they apply to multiple species. The goal is for the farm to develop a risk-based food safety plan. Verification procedures for a GAP program is done by a country or industry or a third-party program because FDA does not have regulatory authority over farms. We don't have any interaction to the GAP program at the farm level. That's done in country. Okay, this slide has a diagram of a pyramid or a triangle. And the diagram on the left is for the seafood processor, showing the three kind of levels of regulatory controls that are in place for seafood processors. And the diagram on the right is then for the farm and the GAP program. So on the left, you see at the bottom, this is a GMP 117, which stands for Good Manufacturing Practices. This is a CFR 117. The middle level is sanitation control procedures, which falls under CFR 123. And then the top level here would be the HACCP plan. So the HACCP plan is supported by sanitation control procedures and by good manufacturing practices. So if you take these principles and sort of direct them at the farm level, we like to talk about biosecurity at the farm. And this is more or less everything that's going on outside of the perimeter of the farm. The middle level is BMP's best manufacturing practices is one way to call it. And that would be basically the operations on the farm day to day, your water quality, your feeding, monitoring the health of your animals and so forth. And then the top part here, the food safety plan, would be sort of an equivalency to a HACCP plan for the farm. Okay, an example of biosecurity for outside the farm, I've got 4 bullets here. This is just kind of very brief. There can be many, many more examples, but obviously controlling access of people and vehicles and animals to minimize the spread of potential pathogens, disinfecting vehicles and people at all entry points to the farm, monitor water quality, feed supply, and other farm inputs, and have a plan to test and record all these inputs, and then having your staff trained to understand the biosecurity plan. Again, this is just 4 of what would be potentially many biosecurity controls. A couple of pictures here showing good biosecurity. A picture on the left is a foot dip. Before people enter the farm, they would disinfect their feet. their shoes, their sandals, whatever. Picture on the right shows the pond being, the perimeter of the pond has got a fence around it, and it's a security measure to keep animals out. And they did have on this particular farm some kind of string or fishing line across the top of the pond to minimize birds from entering. Here's an example of not so good biosecurity, where you have three teenage girls on a motorcycle that just kind of decided to ride onto the farm during a visit. And on the right, there's three young boys that jumped into the canal where they were draining the pond to try and catch some escaped shrimp. So not good way of controlling farm access. There's no control. Okay, let's talk about the middle level here, sort of the farm operations day to day. Refer to it as best management practices, where you have a sanitation plan for all farm items, including people, equipment, tools, vehicles, water, and ice. You routinely monitor the on-site farm environment for potential problems with pathogens, water quality. You routinely monitor farm animals. You look for early warning signs, indicators of potential disease, and you record all the findings. And then you prepare a disease contingency plan in case you have a problem in writing, and how the farm staff will manage it. Again, these are just 4 examples. There would be many more for most farms. A couple of pictures here of a good example, kind of combining biosecurity aspect with the BMP management of the farm aspect. The picture on the left is shrimp seeds from a hatchery that are disease-free, and then that leads you to stocking healthy animals and a good harvest, hopefully. The next picture here is a couple of pictures of good examples of farm harvest. The workers are bringing up a bag of shrimp, and they've got a tarp down to make sure that the bag doesn't really come in contact with the dirt or the soil so much. They're keeping the shrimp clean. They're transferring the bag of shrimp into a clean tank of water and ice to chill kill them. This is a good example of harvesting procedures. Now here's another picture of not so good harvesting procedures, where the shrimp are not being iced. They're in the hot weather. Workers are taking a little coffee break there. And then on the right, the more disturbing picture is that they are rinsing the shrimp with dirty water from this dirty canal that's right here, right over here. This water right here is not clean. So after going to all that work to raise the shrimp, they're rinsing them with dirty water. Not a good practice. And this is where lack of training has come in. Okay, finally, to the top of the pyramid, the food safety plan. The first bullet here is to say, know your customer. What are the requirements for your product? This is something you would have, the farmer would have from the processor, and something the processor should also be conveying to the farmer. You should have a plan to monitor critical control points, corrective actions, verification procedures. You document and record everything. This is important for traceability purposes, for tracing back. If there's a product that the processor gets rejected, you want to be able to trace that back. And FDA does request that of processors if they have a problem and the product's been refused. The FDA is going to want to know why, where it came from, what are the corrective actions you're taking to prevent this from happening in the future. And just the last bullet there is having, again, trained staff that understand the food safety plan and how to manage it on the farm. This is a example, just one of what could be many ways of documenting your food safety plan. And this is just for one aspect. And I'm going to, since we're on the theme of shrimp here, we'll stick with post-larval shrimp be stocked in a pond. So this is a way where you would put the company name, address, the name of the person who signs this document. And this is the product, intended use, the market, date. Significant hazard is put down as white spot virus. You could also just say disease-free post-larval shrimp. The critical control point is the delivery of the shrimp to the farm. The parameters and values is a supplier certificate for disease-free post-larvae. It could also be that the farm goes to the hatchery if the hatchery is close by and they examine the hatchery operation, for example. It's another way. But most of the time it would be a certificate that the post-larvae are disease-free. The monitoring process would be the certificate from the supplier, collecting the certificate and verify before the shrimp enter the farm, and who's it done by? The farm staff person that's been trained and understands this. A corrective action for this would be to refuse the post-larvae, not accompanied by a disease-free certificate. Record, the post-larval supplier certificate with testing results would be recorded. And who does this? Farm manager reviews the health certificate before the post-larvae are put into the nursery or enter the farm grounds. Another example, it could be a checklist, just a page with a checklist that's followed. The idea is to have a plan to document everything that you do. Okay, this is my next to last slide. Again, think food safety. We have determined that most of the problems that we see that come in with seafood, farm-raised seafood, actually they begin at the farm. There's very few problems that are causing products to be refused from a processor failure. And often that's because of the training and the controls that are put in place through HACCP are very strong. So very, very unusual to have a processor contaminate the product. The product is almost exclusively contaminated at the farm level. And that is my last slide. I'll stop sharing my screen and ask if anyone has any questions. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley.
Sorry we're behind schedule here. We started a little late. That was my fault.
Now the session is open for discussion. We have a question from Nazif Nasser. What are the potential threats of aquaculture feed in the environment?
What are the potential threats of aquaculture feed in the farm or in the environment? Was that? There is some potential
threats of aquaculture feed in the environment.
Yeah, there is some potential. There can be pathogens in feed that can be transferred. So in addition to biosecurity for your, say, shrimp larvae, feed would be another thing that needs to be tested to make sure that you're getting the feed from a manufacturer that you trust and that you have the opportunity to review testing results of the feed and so forth. The same thing for any other input, whether it be water, ice into the farm, probiotics, etc. There is a potential for feed to cause a problem. I think it's most of the time a rarity, but it does happen. So you have to make sure that you're dealing with a feed manufacturer that you're confident is doing a good job.
Seems like there are no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Stanley, for your response.
Thank you. And again, I apologize for the delay. There was a button that was hidden behind my screen asking me yes or no about approving the connection to Zoom, and I couldn't find it, and I finally did. So my apologies for the delay. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. We'll start the next talk in a minute. Next, I invite Marcelo Hidalgo, founder and director, Seafood Matter, Director of Sustainability at FIA PNG, Fishery and Aquaculture Advisor, Netherlands, to give a session talk on marine ingredients for feed in aquaculture, an analysis of certifications and sustainable sourcing. Mr. Marcelo, handing over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are located. I am currently, for some business reason, in Ecuador. So it's warm and sunny today, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much to MAS International for this invitation and opportunity to share these outcomes that are based in a study we carried out in Australia fishery last year. I will try to summarize in my presentation I think in 20-25 minutes what I already did at the University of Zaragoza in Spain. This was part of 2 days workshop, but I will try to make it in 25 minutes. As background, I have been working in the seafood industry, especially in tuna and shrimp, for more than 22 years, working globally in auditing, assessment, evaluation, implementation of traceability tools in more than 60 countries. I am going to share my screen to start with my presentation. Okay. This is an analysis where I am pointing out 3 basic key elements in marine ingredients and making a call to the aquaculture sector after the claiming that aquaculture is the solution for the food security in the world. Contents, I will briefly explain. I have seen my colleagues in the previous presentation. They have been explaining how aquaculture is growing, and also shrimp industry and fisheries, etc. I will present a small background about marine ingredients, the theory of change. I really like always to use the theory of change in any topic I speak to make a good explanation how markets, fisheries and aquaculture, all these dynamics are working. And I will just overview 3 principal elements of marine ingredients that shall be assessed in any decision making for procurement or business: sustainability, food security, and traceability. At the end, I will provide reflections and recommendations in each topic. Well, first of all, it's really clear. Aquaculture, no doubt, is growing fast and steep. Currently, there is a 6% of annual growth, and FAO forecasts predict 10% of aquaculture production by 2050. Ecuador, taking an example, is the largest shrimp farmer in South America and China in Asia. And stock, on the other hand, looking at fishery, stock of fish are being overfishing or they are overfished. Why I am mentioning this is because both of them are linked. Aquaculture 100% depend on fishery. They are not alone. And it's necessary to find additional resources of rich sources of protein to maintain this market of 9 billion euros aquaculture. Alternative ingredients may be, with a similar nutrition, may be a solution for that. And of course, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we can produce in a sustainable manner. Industry, especially aquaculture, more and more has been attacked by media, specifically because of the environmental impact and social impacts. We have to recognize that there is a very close relationship and synergy between fisheries and aquaculture, because aquaculture industry will not exist without feed, without marine ingredients, and these are coming from fishery mainly. IFO, the International Fish Meal and Fish Oil Organization, reported during the first 8 months this year were the higher the year-on-year in fish meal and fish oil production from 6.5 in fish meal and a fish oil production of 12. Of course, there is a 70% source of byproduct coming for processing for tuna trimmings, salmon trimmings, shrimp trimmings, etc. However, certain aquaculture sectors like Seriola in Korea in Japan, yellowtail or salmon in Norway, in Canada, need fresh protein, no salt products, no trimmings. So they depend a lot from pelagic fishing. A small pelagic fish coming from Ecuador, Peru waters, sardines, or Morocco or Mauritanian waters, where they have a big stock of pelagic fish because this type of aquaculture needed. Why is so neat is because marine ingredients include essential proteins, fat, and vitamins to this fast growth of these systems internally in aquaculture. So this is just to prepare a background to start in going deeper in my presentation. The theory of change, I will try to keep it simple. You can see in the right side of your screen, there are on red on top pressure developed by NGOs and right down pressure by consumers and retailers. NGOs like Environmental Justice Foundation, WWF, Greenpeace are pushing and criticizing the impact of fisheries in aquaculture. And they push only the retailers. And you can see the retailers are the first one after the red arrow. And retailers have to take a decision. If all these NGOs are pushing me, I will create my sourcing policy. Then I will transfer the pressure to processors in India, in Europe, or in Asia. Everybody needs to comply with retailers' policy to be able to access to this market. So if the retailer said, okay, I will only buy certified products, processors say, okay, I will transfer now the responsibility to the farm and say, hey, farm, you have to certify, otherwise I will not make business with you. And the certified farm say, okay, I will apply for, in this case, taking as example aquaculture, I can go for Global GAP, for BAP certification, or for the ASC certification. But wait a minute, these three certifications also ask that marine ingredients, broodstock, and hatcheries have to be certified in some degree. So then they have to transfer the pressure to broodstock producer hatcheries, and some of them, for instance, BAP and ASC request that marine ingredient has to be tracked until the origin. And now, just within this year, Marine Trust launched a very comprehensive certification that is covering all this. Everything is based on FAO, Code of Conduct for Good Fisheries, depending on the item. But we can see how this pressure that has origin with NGOs transfer everything until the harvested and byproducts and processing side. And this is how I will go back and mention every time, think about the theory of change during my presentation. The first element I will review is sustainability. Sustainability is a simple concept, is that we can fish or we can extract a resource today without compromising that this resource will be not available for the next generation. So we should have good practices in aquaculture and in fisheries to maintain this. Sustainability also includes social aspects, looking at workers, but also a community around the fishery, communities affected by the aquaculture industry. And also this sustainability has to look at the economic aspect. So these three elements have a balance in sustainability of aquaculture fishery operation. In the previous slide, in my theory of change, I draw a linear supply chain in aquaculture and fisheries, but that is just to explain about the theory of change. The reality is that traceability and supply chain are complex. There is a high need of high transparency and traceability integration. And this is just a screenshot of the Packard Foundation report 2020 that really draw in the middle line, you can see how everything comes from our ecosystem resources through commercial fishing, through aquaculture, and how everything ended in the fishmonger or in the end consumer. I share this with you because I know all the presentation will be shared with all the attendants, but this is just a way to explain that the complexity is high and every member shall have a high level of traceability and transparency. Focusing a little bit more in my topic, traceability and sustainability of marine ingredients. If you remember the theory of change, the last pressure is in feed ingredients, is the feed producer. They have a huge challenge. I would say it's more complex than an aquaculture farm and a fishery, because a feed producer has to verify that every single feed ingredients, besides hazard, food safety, nutritional profile, organic origin, etc., have to verify sustainability, traceability, now impact in social security in communities, social accountability for every single item to put in a small pellet. Why? Because the market, remember, the market is the one asking to have a comprehensive approach to ensure that the entire supply chain is minimizing the impact in the ecosystem in our resources. Element for marine ingredients, well, last year, Best Aquaculture Practices took the lead and they launched the first and very clear and robust feed standard requirements, version 3. Later, in June 2020, the Aquaculture Stewardship Council followed BAP and also launched the version for feed ingredients. Both of them have many things in common, and they are using market tools, theory exchange elements, science behind, and industry practices to develop this, to try to demonstrate that as a feed producer and marine ingredients buyer, you are complying with environmental, social, and community requirements. A code of conduct has to be in place. Every ingredients producer and every feed producer have to carry out a due diligence process for every single item. There should be internal audits in place, and the due diligence process has to demonstrate compliance with the list of suppliers and every single item in the feed formulation. These are the 5 areas that BAP and ASC and I believe Global Gap also are including. First, to set up a management system. As feed producer, you have to also assist the feeding the marine ingredients. Besides, I am not mentioning terrestrial ingredient, plant ingredients, is more complex, but I am just focused on aquaculture and marine ingredients, coming from fisheries. So a management system has to be implemented. Sources for ingredients, this is chain of custody and traceability. Have to account the eligibility of ingredients. If there is a transparent, there is a mass balance, everything that comes in goes out. There is no desviation or inclusion, cross-contamination in terms of quantities. And marine ingredient responsibility. I highlight this because I come back later on this. Is something that certification are not including yet. Marine ingredients shall come from 3 areas to be sustainable: for a certified MSC fishery, for byproducts. We know we have a big global source, 70% are coming for trimmings globally, or engage in a fishery improvement project. To keep it simple, this is a nice screenshot I took from the MSC website, where we can see the 3 principles. Principle 1, the target species is assessed. Principle 2, impacting bycatch and ecosystem is assessed. And the principle 3, the governance and the management system and regulations are assessed. When I went into the MSC website, because I saw that ASC, BAP, and Global Gap are saying you have to buy your pelagic fish from a certified MSC fishery, okay, let's do it. I went there, and this is what I found. There are 6 certified fisheries in sardines and 2 certified anchovy fisheries. And these are the quantities you can see down in the screen: 180,000 metric tons and 19 metric tons. These are for human consumption. So the first requirement from aquaculture certification is nowadays not practical because there are no MSC certified fishery for fresh pelagic fish. All pelagic fish are go direct to the market for human consumption. So then I went to Fishery Progress. Let's see what they are doing regarding pelagic fish for fish meal and fish oil, where I found a big fishery in Morocco, Sardina pilchardius, but also we have another in Peru, and there are another big one in Mauritania. And all of them are in a journey towards sustainability, which means it's not a perfect fishery, but they are trying to implement policies, regulation, and improve the management at fishery level, monitoring, compliance, but also how the communities affect. You can go to every single of these websites, and I provide the link where you can search where are these sources. After that, I said, well, let's say if the marine ingredients are restricted, because talking to some key players, feed producers globally, everybody told me there are no numbers. There is no mass balance between, okay, aquaculture is growing 6% every year. Do we have enough marine ingredients to feed this huge industry growing 6%? Some of two players that was confidential say, even now, if we buy all pelagic fish, we cannot comply with our requirements. So they are developing a lot and are investing a lot in alternative marine ingredients because the current pelagic fish available is not enough. So it's a call to come together fisheries and aquaculture. Marine ingredients alternative, we have algae meal, have the same, exactly the same protein profile that fish meal and fish oil. In my personal opinion, this is the best alternative. The only challenge is to get volumes, big volumes. This is really a tiny microalgae, so that is the challenge that this industry like Inalve and algae prime are facing. There are many others around the world also improving these techniques. Insect meal coming from ants in Africa and Ecuador, everybody's investing to try to also use for crustaceans because all of them are arthropoda, so are coming from the taxonomy point of view, are family, and they are digestible. They increase, help to increase the weight. Krill meal, in my time in the 90s, krill was harvest, wild caught. Now krill is done in aquaculture. In Thailand, I think in Vietnam as well, krill is a high also source of protein and is alternative marine ingredients. Single cell protein, most of the top big players, feed producer are going to single cell protein to try to compensate and reduce the use of marine ingredients. Everybody start to realize aquaculture can collapse if we don't review and assess this mass balance. Several factors have to be considered: volumes available, talk to FAO, protein content and digestibility. It's not like everything we can create. The fishes and crustaceans are going to eat and grow. We need some R&D, research and development for that. Capacity to contribute to the reduction of FCR. As farm manager, I have to concern about how to manage my farm in a better way. Not only is feed, but also I don't know to use automatic feeders, this eco receptor to optimize the use of my feed and reduce the feed conversion rate. In that way, I will reduce also my impact and pressure in the feed producer. And look at food security. That is the next element. I took this from Biomar because it's very easy to understand. If you see the graph from the left side, we can see that in the 90s, there was a huge consumption of fish meal and fish oil, light blue and dark blue. And you can see them around 2020, before 2020, the big reduction of fish meal and fish oil, but they increased a lot the use of plain dry matter. And now, and this is what I want to share with you, they are investing a lot in single cell protein coming from raw materials. So they are reducing and they are proposing themselves to eliminate, minimize almost less than 10% use of fish oil as well, and increase single cell protein raw material because of marine ingredients scarcity that is coming probably in few years. So this is the status about this sustainability or reflection. We shall prevent overfishing and minimize incidental impacts. takes into account social and economic impacts, sourced from countries that have a fishery management plan or are fit, so we can ensure that there is still marine ingredient for next generation and the aquaculture sector. Increase investment in science and technology to optimize processes. And this is a call for aquaculture partnership across the entire value chain. Doesn't matter the species, from feed companies to farmers, from fisheries to retailers. We need to work, I think, stronger. And I just heard last week, the round table of marine ingredients was created. It's a good timing, but something that concerns is that they are calling to fish the mesopelagic fish. So I would disagree to increase fishing in the upper level of the food supply chains in the ocean when there are no small pelagic fish anymore. So that now they are proposing go to the upper level. I think I would disagree in that proposal. Second element, food security, is to have enough food for our people, local communities, especially artisanal fishermen and their families. And this is something that certification not always apply requirements. If you look at aquaculture certification, they don't have any requirement yet for food security. And I will share with you just a study where we can see how traceability is so important to not only look after food safety, quality, and mass balance topics, but also about food security, how it's affected. It's the West African community, is a Greenpeace report released this year. Also, the link is here and you can go in deeper. The EU is the major market for the West African fish meal and fish oil, particularly for the fish oil. The majority of this production source most go to EU import is coming from Mauritania, but also Senegal is affected. And 18% of this is exported to the EU. And well, is dedicated for aquaculture, agriculture, dietary supplements, cosmetic, and pet care. In the report, we can see this beautiful graph where we can easily see how the raw material, the marine and pelagic fish go from Mauritania and Senegal waters into Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, and Poland markets for growing different fishes in aquaculture. And also the traceability also allowed Greenpeace to detect where was sold this fish that used this fish meal and fish oil. Communities affected are from Gambia and Senegal. Between 50 and 70% local people depends on this small pelagic fish for feed, for income, for selling locally, dry, salty. And what happens if we are removing that? Well, these people will become vulnerable. They will start to migrate. They will start to get any job, cross the Mediterranean Sea, and just increase the volume of refugees, I would say. So it's something, it's a global impact when we don't have a well fishery management plan in place. And that is also the reason why if you are a buyer, you should support the Fishery Improvement Project and the Marine Stewardship Council products to increase this investment. So this is one of the pages in this report in Greenpeace, where the assessors took products from different supermarkets from Spain, UK, France, Germany. Because traceability nowadays is quite high in both fisheries and aquaculture, they detect from which farm was coming from, and even the farm from which feed producer was buying, and if this feed producer was buying from fish meal and fish oil coming from these countries in Africa. You can see on top of the screen. And well, these are the results. All of them are buying. I know there is a feed in place, so they are moving towards a certification. And under this FIP, Fishery Improvement Project, this fishery is trying to be improved. The missing piece is the impact in the community that goes beyond the FIP. Food security NGOs are reaching media to inform much more about the situation and the impact in local communities. Farmers and feed producers have a high influence in decision-making to seek and find alternative marine ingredients. These players should reduce the pressure on these fisheries to ensure local communities have access to high protein and they will not become vulnerable in the future. Fishery assessment, fishery management plan are urgently necessary to be updated. Innovation and science play an important role to decrease the food insecurity in communities that may be affected by exploitation of these pelagic fish. My last topic is about traceability based on the Codex Alimentarius. It's a basic definition that is the ability to follow the movement of the food through the specific stage of production. And as we already saw, even we can detect the origin. Now there is a new coalition globally called Global Dialogue on Seafood Traceability, and they have, based on FAO, set up the key data elements, or KDE, that every single traceability system should have. There are several tools at market level like GS, barcode in retailers, or radio frequency for fishery sector, trade fish. In days before my presentation, also some colleagues present those technology. Vessel monitoring system help the fisheries to track fishing movement, to take fishery management decision. Track and trace. Private developers and providers also are launching new platforms to just do one thing in the market: be transparent. Increase traceability, attract retailers, Europeans, Canadians, US. If you have a very clear traceability platform that can share data in almost real time, you will pull to you the best retailers. I think that is nowadays the main message. So the GDST, or Global Dialogue on Seafood Traceability, requests at least for aquaculture to have at least 26 KDE, and for fisheries at least 43 KDEs. KDEs are elements necessary to demonstrate that you are controlling and you know the origin of marine ingredients, what the farm is doing, hatchery and broodstock. You can go to this link and verify and get more details about the GDST. I will finalize to see how this aquaculture certification and fishery certification interact. All of them are members of the GDST. That is really good. They are working together, the agency, BAP, Global Gap, Marine Trust, MSC, and Fishery Progress, but the comprehensive part. And the interesting thing is that all the aquaculture certification are now recognizing that Marine Trust is a certification program to ensure marine ingredients, traceability, social impact in marine ingredients and people working there. And in some cases, Marine Trust also is requesting that fisheries should be certified by MSC or should be engaged in a fishery progress. So I think all these certification programs are working together, align the same message to just try with the main goal is to maintain the resources for the next generations. A comprehensive program for marine ingredients, that is what Marine Trust is claiming and is offering. They hold the biggest share of the market currently. 80% of the fish oil and fish meal sources are certified as Marine Trust. And this program is supported by WWF, Sustainable Fishery Partnership, and Sede Pesca from Spain. This is the backbone from the other certification programs. And the principles are 9 principles are looking at IUU, a responsible sourcing, ensuring that there is a product segregation identification at all stages until the origin, and all environmental regulation, local and international, are matched according to the market where it's go, at land and at sea, if it's applicable. There is a GMP in place for feed producers. There is a very effective traceability system in place that, as I explained, has to go until the fishery. And there is social and welfare rights employees for marine ingredients until the fisheries have to also be in place and be able to assess. The impact on the plants on local communities have to be assessed, but this is planned for feed ingredients. Something is missing regarding communities that are not around a factory. It's communities that depend on that marine ingredients. It's something that I trust will come soon in certification. So just to share with you a graphic manner, these three are the aquaculture certification that certify farms. Some of them feed factory. Marine Trust is looking about transport, final product factory, but also about looking at fisheries and fish meal and fish oil with treatments. And Marine Stewardship Council also is looking at the fishery. These are just to share with you where Marine Trust is working in partnership with private industry and with government, carrying out Marine Trust FIPS or chain of custody improvement is globally, and they have in India, you can see here, they have an improvement project in India. So one of the fisheries in India is engaged there. These are the value chain players that are collaborating with Marine Trust, including MSC, ASC, BAP, Global Gap, and WWF, and many big supermarkets and big players like Thai Union. This is a public recognition that you can find in BAP, Global Gap, and ASC, how these programs are recognizing and working together with Marine Trust to ensure the sustainability of the marine ingredients for next generations. Final reflections. Please, if you are going to buy a feed for your aquaculture, map your supply chain, ensure traceability and accountability and food security. Nowadays, we have a lot of tools available to assess food security. Currently, almost 30% of the world fish meal and 48% of the fish oil already come from byproducts. So it's increasing. I was talking about 70% in total. Carry out the risk analysis of your fish supplier and the capability to trace, because you can buy a cheap feed, but you are putting in risk your own operation, because probably in a few years you will not have any more feed from that feed supplier. Support feed producers buying certified feed to ensure the responsible management of fisheries and also protection of resources for next generation. And we cannot talk about sustainable aquaculture if we don't have a sustainable marine ingredient source. Aquaculture is growing, this growth highly depends on fishery management, and a closer cooperation is needed. And also another topic that I didn't want to go deep is please consider the CO at the moment to assess your supply chain and map it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marcelo. Now the session is open for discussion. We have a question from Parul M. Aquaculture industry will not exist without feed and marine ingredients. This statement was mentioned in your presentation. In the current situation, feed substitutes are available at reasonable cost, anytime, anywhere. How do you justify that?
Well, alternative ingredients are used depending on the species. The alternative ingredients that you can use in shrimp, probably you are not going to be able to use in salmon or in yellowtail. Depending on the aquaculture species that you are cultivating or growing, the protein requirements are different. And that is the challenge, to have enough volumes to justify or to replace the use of marine ingredients, decreasing the marine ingredient use, and increasing the use of alternative. So what can work for shrimp cannot work for salmon or cannot work for tilapia. And that is the challenge. That is the high dependent. I hope that at least in the coming 5 years, there could be a balance and accountability in the fisheries and aquaculture supply chains, looking at marine ingredients. Really a clear accountability, where are the volumes and how this can support the growth of the aquaculture. But there is no one bullet solution saying that, okay, we have 10 alternative marine ingredients, with this we are done. It's depending on the species and the stage of the species, small, fingerlings, post-larvae, etc. So it's a little bit complex in that sense. And by experience, I know salmon, especially in yellowtail, they are the industry that has more problems to find a good alternative ingredients that can replace fish meal and fish oil.
We have one more question by our speaker, Nasir Hamid. What is your idea on the fishery and aquaculture industry profitability and the need of these certification, which will come at a cost to the business?
Yeah, well, starting for the statement that certifications are in the market because of probably lack of government compliance in any country. Certification, what try is to take all these regulation beside FAO in a higher or in a more transparent manner. And retailers, and if you remember the graph about the theory of change, are putting pressure on the supply chain. Looking at in a business model, how much would be the profitability, that is case by case, and it's up to the players in the value chain to agree in a business model in how the profit can be shared. If you look at in this way, but from my experience nowadays, to hold a certification, to demonstrate compliance and to demonstrate that you are taking care of the operation aquaculture fishery is a market access requirement. If you are not certified, I would say you have a 99% chances of not be able to sell your products in Europe, Canada, US, probably South Africa or Australia in the top big retailers. Retailers more and more want to also transfer this pressure into the supply chain. And this is the opportunity where processors should sit together with retailers and talk about how to improve together and finance probably this improvement. In the beginning, I would say 15 years ago or 10 years ago, you can get easily 10, 15% premium if you were certified. But nowadays, I would say this is a market access requirement, more than a premium price that you can get a nice and good business model from aquaculture fisheries. I hope this can answer your question.
Seems there are no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Marcelo, for your response.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to join you.
We have now come to the finale of the 3-day virtual conference, Seafood eConnect 2021. Mars International, the organizer of the event, express heartfelt gratitude to Marine Stewardship Council, MSC, for their sponsorship and Infofish for being our media partner. We are thankful to all our conference associates, MSC, FAO, Infofish, USFDA, Thisfish, Maril, Seafood Tip, Seafood Matter, Fish World Track, Certified Quality Foods, Acadian Sea Plants, SSNI, and MPEDA for their immense contribution as speakers. The overwhelming participation of 1,700 registered business visitors from over 100 countries is much appreciated. For those who missed the conference sessions, video links will be available in our social media platforms. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We honor the request of registered exhibitors to organize Seafood eConnect 2021 trade show offline. The dates will be announced later in the website. We look forward to associate with you all in Seafood eConnect 2022 and engage in your business promotion activities. Goodbye and good wishes from Mars International.
People have relied on the oceans as a source of food and for their livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we have become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea, and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSC standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognized as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all three principles of the MSC standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSC uses its blue eco-label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco-label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco-label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together.